60% of the electorate voted for change. They didn't just vote for Chris Christie. They voted for the reform agenda that, in our judgment, was moving fairly well until the re-election of the Democratic legislature. And what you have today, in my judgment, are the Democrats in the legislature failing to respond to the 60% mandate that was given to the reform agenda. Now, it's my opinion that the Democrats are focusing on 2017. They're focusing in on the gubernatorial race that's years down the road, and they are now, in my judgment, playing to a limited number of voters, I'll call the special interest, in order to appeal to this voting bloc during the next 2 or 3 years so they can win a Democratic primary. Specifically, for the past 6 months, they've been searching for why the bridge was closed, instead of searching for answers to how to keep the state of New Jersey open 2, 3, 4 years down the road. We face serious problems in the state, and we believe that it's time for the reform agenda to get started. Each of the members of the Republican leadership are here, and they're going to talk about the fact that this Thursday there's a voting session in the State Assembly. There are no reform bills posted. Interest arbitration bill, not posted. Any sort of pension and health discussion with a $50 billion debt, no discussion. Supreme Court openings in the Senate, no discussion. School funding issues, no discussion, and no discussion on issues such as bail reform. On that note, I'll turn this over to Dave Ribel, the conference leader, and let him explain further about the fact that we're not responding to 60% of the voters.
Just about an hour ago, I spent some time downstairs with about 100 students from Howell Middle School. And one of the students asked me a question: what have I seen differently from New Jersey from when I grew up to today? And then I paused. The real thing that I've seen is the business climate change. And the business climate has drastically been reduced here, and the children today are lacking what we all grew up with as a Main Street USA, to go down and work and visit these businesses and pay tribute to the businesses, and they're all being chased out here with the climate we have. And we have so many bills right now that we could be addressing that would be going after the corporation tax, COA. COA, the Supreme Court is sending us messages, they're sending us smoke signals. Please, give us something. Give us something that will reform COA for New Jersey so we can get it out of our hands. And we need to be acting fast as a legislature on the COA to make a better business climate. We need to be creating sound ground for these businesses to say, you know, I'm going to stay here in New Jersey, or I'm going to come back to New Jersey. We have bills that would actually give businesses in Asia, a tax break to come over to New Jersey and allow EDA to work with them closer. We're not doing that. So we are focusing, as the leaders mentioned, on the agenda. What's not on there, what's very important to me as we go around the state, is we've got to give confidence to the business owners. Governor Christie has done a great job with the red tape review. He's taken a lot of the hurdles, but there's much more we could be doing as a legislature to give businesses a better soundtrack.
4 years ago, New Jersey had a bright, shining moment of bipartisanship, led by Governor Christie with cooperation of the Democrat legislative leadership, and we enacted reforms that I was told would never happen in my lifetime, never mind during my tenure in this House. We passed pension benefits reform. We passed property tax reform, the form of the property tax cap, which was the greatest transfer of power from Trenton and upper levels of government down to the actual people and voters and people affected by property taxes that you've ever seen. Arbitration award legislation as well. These reforms were real, were genuine, were substantial, were dramatic. Actually, I don't think that's an over-dramatization. And they swept the country, and New Jersey led the way. What a proud moment that was of bipartisanship. Look forward to today, and we are back to our old ways. Right now, arbitration reform needs to happen. It's essential. If it does not happen, it's the first domino that will fall in the dismantling of the property tax reforms that this governor and the legislature, we thought, were sincere when they put them in place 3.5 years ago. What's the solution that our friends on the other side of the aisle have to our budget problem? A millionaire's tax. A millionaire's tax for a whole host of levels is a bad idea for everybody in New Jersey, not just the wealthy. It will drive people out, and it will increase the very volatility that has led us to these budget problems in the first place. The people in New Jersey are not asking for much. They want reasonable, rational laws that abide by the laws of mathematics, which we do not have the power to change last time I looked. They want things to fit together, and they want us to do it in a way that doesn't destroy them financially. Those are attainable goals. They're pretty simple goals. We look forward to standing with our friends on the other side of the aisle. And if there is nobody who is more consistently behind bipartisan cooperation than the governor and the leadership on this side of the aisle. Our hand is outstretched today. That's what we're trying to say. Thank you.
I appreciate our leaders' thoughts here on the fact that there were 60% of the people supporting a reform agenda. I think it's very clear when you look at what the average citizen wants. They want New Jersey to be an affordable place to live. They want New Jersey to be less regulated. They're looking for a place where they can bring families to, raise families here in New Jersey, have a good job, and have a great state to be proud of. And we need to reform the state. We need to reform the spending in the state. One of the things that you have to recognize is we've got big problems, very big problems, and we need very big solutions. Now the Supreme Court, let's look to that for a minute. The Supreme Court has not been fully comprised almost the entire time the governor has been here. The Senate Democrats are blocking the governor's ability to get a full Supreme Court put together. What does that impact? The impact of the Supreme Court on New Jersey is the fact that we've got two decisions that have had a devastating impact across our state. One is the Abbott decision, and the other one is the Mount Rural decision. We say that because looking at the Abbott decision, we are strangled by the mandate from the court on how much funding has to go to one part of the government. We have no flexibility in being able to move money around where we have all these big problems facing us, whether it be the pension debt problem or the transportation funding problem. You can look on and on in terms of our fiscal issues. The Supreme Court getting new justices on this court that would give a more rational look to our problems in the state, allow for us to be able as a legislature to be more flexible with our funding. That's what we need. I know that the average citizen would certainly support that and would support that reform.
The leader mentioned that there's an R word that applies to Republicans in New Jersey and not to Democrats, and that's, of course, reform. There's another R word that around the country is often used in a negative way against Republicans. People sometimes say that we are reactionary. But in fact, here in New Jersey, it's the Democrats who are the forces of reaction against moving ahead in disruptive ways that are needed to create a better state in this new world. Now, you all know that I feel very, very strongly that it's time to get on with reform of the Port Authority. You all know, because I've said it over and over, that during the time we spent here today, which I assume will be about a half an hour, the Port Authority will have blown through another $500,000 because it's spending $1 million an hour in all kinds of dysfunctional, parasitic ways with no controls and no transparency. And our friends on the other side of the aisle don't seem to be the least bit bothered by that. And of course, it's not just the Port Authority. A couple of my colleagues mentioned that people have very straightforward needs or concerns. They, of course, are very concerned about pocketbook issues. And another major pocketbook issue that's being ignored by the Democratic leadership is the need to stop accumulating huge amounts of money that the state must pay to employees for not being sick. The pot of money that we've now accumulated is nearly $1 billion. in what we owe, what we are obligated to pay out in so-called sick time. That's, again, not used for being sick. That's a relatively simple, straightforward reform that the Democrats simply refuse to consider. And people also want to be safe. And here in New Jersey, we have this bizarre system which enables all kinds of vicious criminals who have committed the most heinous acts to walk away on bail. We desperately need reforms that will give our judges the discretion they need to keep certain kinds of vicious criminals locked up, away from families, away from kids, away from all of the honest people of goodwill in New Jersey.
You know, not only are our colleagues across the aisle not focusing on the reforms that we need to make New Jersey better, but it appears to me that we are reverting to the failed policies of the past. I mean, just this week, we're dealing with budget issues, and what's the response? The response is raise taxes. And we saw where that put us the last time. Our colleagues just aren't listening. You know, I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce, and those folks made it absolutely clear to me that the tax and regulation of the past is what brought us to this position. We cannot go back. We have to go forward. And I understand that politics plays a role, as the leader said in the beginning. But I can tell you that when I was in high school at senior year, and I went to English class, my English teacher told me I had senioritis. She said I wasn't paying attention because all I could think about was graduation. Well, I can tell you this. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have to get away from their senioritis. They've got to start paying attention to where this state is at and how we're going to move it forward. And it's not going to be by raising taxes on the people in New Jersey, and especially on the business community. What we need in New Jersey is stability and predictability. And if we have that, the revenues will grow. We need to balance our budget. We need to show people that we can come together as a legislator and tackle the tough issues that my colleagues have talked about. If we do that, it'll be a better New Jersey. If we continue to allow our colleagues across the aisle to have senioritis, graduation is going to be a long way off.
As a result of the lack of energy on the Democratic side towards reforms, I've requested Assemblyman Rybel to begin with the Policy Committee hearings in this room, parallel hearings to the so-called Whizgate, Bridgegate hearings. And we're going to bring back both Democrats and Republican business people throughout the state and let them bring their ideas, their concerns, and let them bring their issues to the State House so we can address the most important issue in this state, and that's jobs. Without jobs and without an important and flourishing economy, it's going to be very difficult to fund the programs that are desperately needed. So Assemblyman and Conference Leader Rybel, he's been involved leading business community in his own district. I'm going to ask him to work with the Policy Committee and bring the business people here and let them explain both. I want registered Democrats and Republicans